All right, hopefully everyone can see that, and as more people spill in, I'll be sure to let them in. But I'd like to get us started for those who showed up on time. Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Ruben, and I'm a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual. It's my great honor and privilege to host all of you today. Alongside, we're going to have three incredible speakers who I'm so excited that they decided to join me on this journey. Before we even dive into what it is we're going to talk about, I just wanted to set the mood for today. Today is March 3rd, which for those of you who are unaware, March is Women's History Month. I'm always on the fence about celebrating certain months because I don't like to ever make people feel separate or less than or different. But I also like to acknowledge when there is a holiday and there is a special time to celebrate people who maybe go unnoticed. It wasn't the intention to have three women join me on the panel because it was Women's History Month, but at the same time, I just think it speaks to the character and the quality of the people in my network, and I'm very grateful to share the stage with these women today. What we're really going to be focusing on, and if I switch to the next slide here, is family. So each one of our speakers today runs a professional service practice that serves families. Our goal is to share some of the valuable insights of what's working for our clients and to help make 2022 your family's most successful career to date or year to date. So you can be joining from a variety of positions in life. Some of you don't have families yet, or you have families you were born into but haven't created on your own. Others of you are in a marriage, maybe have children, thinking about kids, and some of you have split families or have divorced or in blended families. Family looks very different for a lot of people today, but our goal is to speak to a variety of strategies that are going to be helpful no matter what your family looks like. And so if at any point we're talking about something that doesn't quite sound like your family, but you're curious to know more about how it could apply to your family, let us know. So with that said, it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker today. This is our panel from an overview, but first speaker today is going to be Jackie. So if everyone could give a warm welcome to Jackie, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to give Jackie the stage.
Thanks, Nate. I am excited to be here and presenting with this wonderful group of people. Very impressive group. I've enjoyed getting to know you and working with you. So we are talking about running your family like a business today. I am from a company called My Personal Bookkeeper. We help people to do a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today, paying bills and getting organized and thinking about budgets and things like that. So I'm going to move on. And as Nate said, families look different for everyone. So everything I'm talking about applies to an individual too. Everybody should be getting themselves organized. So running your family like a business might sound a little bit odd to you, but when people call me, they always tell me that they're totally organized at work and they have a bookkeeper for their business who does everything and pays the bills and keeps them organized. But they never really realized that they should think about it that way for home, or that they could have a bookkeeper at home. So I'm telling you, you can and you should keep yourself just as organized at home as you do at work. And here are some tips. Setting up a system for paying bills is really important. You shouldn't leave that to chance. We're all really busy and it's easy to let things get lost in the shuffle. So get yourself organized. Mail can be really annoying. There's a lot of junk that comes in the mail every day. And many of us are working so hard, we don't have time to sit down, and it's not the most efficient thing either to sit down every day and look at your mail and pay the 1 or 2 bills that came today. So you should have a place that you put all your mail every day. Get it off the countertops, put it in a basket somewhere, in a cabinet, in a drawer, not too far out of the way so you don't forget about it. But before you put it in that basket, spend 2 minutes flipping through it really quickly. There will be things that you automatically know are junk. Throw them in the garbage. They should never even make it into your basket. So pick a day of the week. Every week on Sunday, I'm going to spend 2 hours or 1 hour going through my mail and my bills, or it's going to be Monday mornings, whatever it is. Don't go longer than a week without looking at it all and handling it. Set as many of your bills up as possible on auto pay so that if you get really busy and you can't get to it, you're not missing a bill and you're not messing with your credit score. You can still review the bills and you can dispute things. You just don't have to worry about it and maybe miss something. Go digital. Stop getting all that mail as much as you can. Find a good digital filing system and keep your bills there. That could be folders in your email, it could be Dropbox, or other methods that you choose. I just would advise you not to keep them only on your computer. They should be somehow clouded so you can access them when you're not home. And you can scan things if you get things in, some things just can't go digital and you're still gonna get them in the postal mail. Scan those and throw out the paper. You can use your phone to scan them. You can have a scanner on your desk, but add them all to those digital folders that you have. The best thing about having those digital folders, I'm going to give you a quick example. My daughter, for the millionth time, dropped her phone and broke it, and we had to go to Verizon for a new phone. And they asked me about insurance. Do I have an insurance plan for her? I was able to open my Dropbox app, look at my organized folders, and pull up her insurance on her phone quickly and give them the policy number. I was never more proud of myself than that moment when I was able to produce that on the spot. Review your bank statements and your credit card statements regularly. I know you probably do this at work. Everything has to be reported and expensed, and there's a bookkeeper reviewing and asking you questions. You should be doing this at home too. A lot of people just don't do it. They don't have the time. And if you're not doing it, I can pretty much guarantee you that there are things on your credit card statement that you don't realize are there or you for sure don't need. Are you sure you canceled that gym membership? How many streaming services are you paying for? Remember all those free trials you signed up for? They eventually turn into paid subscriptions. So really comb through it and see what you can eliminate. Make sure there is no fraud going on your credit card. Look at your balance sheet, which sounds kind of funny. We think about that for business, but you should be tracking your expenses at home. You should be tracking your income. A lot of people who have their own business often tell me they have no idea how much they're actually bringing home because they take income in different ways. So some of it comes in a regular paycheck, some of it comes in shareholder distributions. There's different ways to take money out of your business. And if you're not tracking it, you may have no idea what you're really spending. And you should know that. So there are many financial management software programs. You can look them up online and do some research and find one that works well for you. They connect to your bank accounts and download transactions. And then you can go in and categorize those into specific expense categories, which will really help you then to run a report and look at what's going on in your life. Where can you cut? Just by looking at that monthly, you might be able to make some cuts and save some money. Or do you see that you have a surplus every month and can you make an automatic transfer to a savings or an investment account? If not, how can you make that happen? So it takes planning. You make business plans at work, do the same at home. Set some goals and make plans for achieving those goals. And then revisit them often. And then lastly, it's really important to work with talented professionals who are in your corner. You should definitely have an attorney and have trusts, wills, and powers of attorney done for you. And I know Nicole will probably touch on that, but if you haven't done any of that, you should put it at the top of your list. It's really important. You're not too young. Anyone who is 18 years old or above should have some of those documents in place. Make sure you have a strong attorney, financial advisor, insurance broker, and accountant on your team. I happen to know a few of those that are on this screen today. And just like you do at work, hire a bookkeeper if you need the help. Get yourself organized.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And before I turn it over to Julie, I just want to ask a quick question for you. I obviously know the answer to this because it's why I wanted you to join us today. But when people traditionally think of bookkeepers, they're typically thinking of, my parents are getting older and they need help managing. But I'm seeing a trend where more and more young couples are just busy with work and things fall through the cracks. Talk to me a little bit about what have been the biggest things that clients have come to you looking for and what have you been able to help them with?
So we get calls all the time for some of the things I said, that people call me and say, I just have no idea where my money is going. My husband and I make a lot of money and we're not saving anything. And I just don't know what we're spending on. I've had people specifically say to me, my family is spending so much money on DoorDash, but I have no idea how much. And I'd like to get a handle on that. And then other things come with it. They say all the time, I'm so busy with work. I'm so busy with my kids. When I get my kids to sleep at 9 o'clock at night, the last thing I feel like doing is looking at my bills and finances. So, that's where we come in. And again, like you said, this is not just for seniors. We're all just really busy, and it would help us now as we're younger to really get things organized and prepare for later on, and have a better savings plan, a better handle on our budget. And we do a lot of budgeting for people.
Quick question from Dave. He asks, what budgeting apps do you recommend? I know of You Need a Budget, Mint, Intuit, and Dave Ramsey. Do you have anything that you're typically recommending to clients?
One I would add to that is called Tiller Money. It's Tiller. It's what we generally use. It's pretty easy, and it provides you with a lot of spreadsheets and graphs, and it works through Google. So all the ones you mentioned are also good. You just have to sort of see what would work for you.
Awesome. I love it. And then just to kind of take everything Jackie said and frame it into context for people who maybe got here late, the big takeaway to me is that every business, not only do they need an accountant who's tracking things on the books, but they need a financial officer who's reviewing the statements, giving high-level analysis of what's happening here. And it sounds like what Jackie and her team can be really effective at is being that person for you. So whether you choose to implement these actions on your own, or you reach out to Jackie and ask for help, having somebody on your team play that role of financial auditor and analyst is going to be super critical. Jackie, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Awesome. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Julie Silverman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jackie, that was excellent. I took so many notes. I mean, it's things that you think that you know, and then it's always nice to revisit that. So, of course, it's great too, because it's not just for, elderly people or your, loved ones that you can't help day in and day out, but for all ages and everybody at every stage. Everyone's so busy these days. Anyway, so thanks for taking the time today and joining us. I work at a company called Associated Agencies, and I am an insurance broker advisor. And what we do at our firm is we help companies with everything from business insurance all the way through personal lines. So this also includes personal lines as home and auto, your umbrellas, and then many other areas such as life insurance and disability, all those type of things. So what I do really is I work as your trusted advisor, and I'm a risk mitigation expert, helping you walk through those everyday things in life that you really don't want to deal with, which is the fun area called insurance. We all need insurance. It's a necessary evil. And it's super important to work really closely, also as Jackie had mentioned, with a broker, because what happens is if you try and go fly by the seat of your pants, or you try and go and fly on your own, a lot of times things are missed. No one is an expert at any of this. And before I got into this business, yes, I had someone doing my home insurance and helping me with that. But to be honest with you, I had no idea how to even look and read my home and auto insurance, or even look at any other areas that I have. And my husband also has his own business too. And, even taking a look at what kind of insurance is needed there. So many companies, small businesses and large businesses have an insurance broker. They may have an insurance broker, hopefully, but do they know all the ins and outs of your business? Do they know you personally? Do they take your relationship seriously? Do they keep in touch with you? Those are all the things that I do. And I work as your personal quarterback. So you've got one point of contact. You can rely on me for everything. And we get to know each other really well. And many of my clients we'll start off, if I'm talking with them about their business, many of the times we'll just start off in talking about their home. How can I help them with that? We have many people over the past couple of years going ahead and buying or renting other places away from where they live. And they don't really know the next steps or the right steps to take if they have a secondary home, whether it's here in Illinois or out of state. So again, I walk side by side with my clients and help them to make sure that all of that is done properly. So for example, I have a client of mine that has a few homes. One is in Wisconsin, one is in Colorado, and one is here in the Chicago area. And I asked him to please let me just take a look at everything. And I took a look at all of his personal insurance, and he was not insured properly, although was with the same broker for over 30 years. His umbrella policy did not cover areas of his other homes. He also had a boat that his teenage sons were driving. They were over 21, but they were driving on the lake that he was at in Wisconsin. And believe it or not, the umbrella was not even covering the boat. And as I kept asking more and more questions, we were digging deeper and deeper. It was severely underinsured. So this is where I step in, as I really take a holistic look at everything that they have, that you have, and say, okay, here are the areas that I feel like you are missing. Where can we help improve? And if you don't want to do something today, you kind of look at it as a menu kind of a concept. We can always add those things later on, but these are the strong and meaningful suggestions that we can make for you based on our experience. So we have access to over 150 different carriers, both our business side as well as our personal line. So what we do then again is just really just hone everything down. And I always call it like a funnel. So think about it that way. We go to all these different carriers for you and make sure that we're finding the best fit for you and the most economical and comprehensive fit for you. So this can go again in any area that you need. So also on another side of the aisle, so to say, cyber has been just a huge, huge subject, right? I mean, literally every single email I get every day in the insurance world, because I'm looking at these publications every single day, there's a few different articles about cyber. And I am talking like we're being bombarded. So this is something that we know, and we were on with one of our carriers the other day. Did you know that only 2% of all insurance brokers out there are cyber experts? That's really important and really meaningful to know, because that's something that we focus on at our firm. We make it a recommendation, a strong recommendation. It's not a requirement for all of our clients to have cyber insurance. So those are the things that we help educate on. We handle also, we'll do seminars, webinars, we send out newsletters, anything that you need to help improve your business across the board and on the personal side too. And succession planning is really important if you're involved in a small business or a family business, and we help walk through succession planning and making sure that you have all the right insurance set up for that as well. So I'm bouncing between both personal and business, but many of you might be business owners or part of a business or work for a business. So all of these different areas tie together. You have to look at it as spokes of a wheel, and who can you trust, and not go to 5 different people to kind of, get to the same spot. But we handle everything in our firm. So that's really a benefit for you. And if there's ever something that I am not sure of, or something I may not focus on specifically on day in and day out, I have teammates and partners and colleagues in my organization that we work hand in hand together as well.
So Julie, I have a couple of questions for you, not to interrupt, but that before we lose the track of a few of these things, as thinking about this in the context of running your family like a business, when I hear your biggest value add, it's that you can work with over 100 different carriers. So you're almost like a personal concierge to help families analyze their vendor options. Can you explain a little bit on why that's helpful for the average family from a time context and an expertise context?
Absolutely. So what we do is, I connect with you and your family, whomever is in charge of looking at everything. And then what we do is just really do a full analysis of what's going on today and get a game plan going and how we can help you not only now, but in the future. So yes, you do want to make sure that you are, of course, running your family like a business. I do that personally as well. So let's just take, like I said, here you can see it as a holistic view of where can we make improvements and how can we get that timeline going. So whether you're a young family and you're just starting out, or you're newly married, or you have a partner, or not, you just, okay, where are you looking right now with your insurance? How are you renting? Are you owning? Are you buying your first home? Are you buying do you have a few vehicles, or are you getting rid of that? And then how does that look, and how can we help you with all of the insurance in those areas? And then the other areas that we'll look at too is, well, down the line, what are some of the things that are going to be more important to you? So we'll take it in 5-year chunks, and then get a game plan going for that. So it's really kind of just like you said, and Nate's going to talk more about that as well, but just looking at, don't try and look at just today. I know that we say be present and be right here, but it is important to plan for your future. And just kind of look down the line. Another story I have is my dad always told me when I was in my 20s, he said, make sure that you have a really good life insurance policy, a great disability policy if you have long-term care. And I had no idea what he was talking about at the time when I was 22 years old. But I actually took that advice to heart. And my husband and I were just getting married a few years after that. And we just got basic policies, and we just built on top of that. It's like, and Nate's going to talk more about financial planning, but it's important just to start building on those kind of things. And it doesn't matter how old you are. We help everybody at every different age level. I've got friends that are in their 40s that don't have anything in place, or they haven't looked at any of their actual home and auto policies, or looked at their internal, information in years. You kind of put it away and you throw it in a drawer, unlike what Jackie wants you to do, but you throw it away and you put it in a drawer and save it for a rainy day, right? Or you maybe, hopefully, put together some kind of a trust or a will or a power of attorney, and you put in the safety deposit box, or you put it under a mattress. So again, we all work together, all of us who are talking today, to help put those components together.
Awesome.
So that's really what we do, and I do all the insurance piece.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate that. And I think if there's one takeaway that I think everyone can apply, is to really think about, do you have something in place for cybersecurity and cyber insurance? Because more and more of our world is online. I know just within my own phone, I have 6 or 7 different banks connected. So as you start to think about your exposure and your liability, definitely a good reason to give Julie a call.
Real quick. So let me just throw this real quick thing in regarding the cyber insurance. Well, on the personal side, many people ask us for it. So aside from business insurance, you can have personal cyber assistance. And if you talk to me, there are a number of carriers that will include it for your home and auto for cyber coverage. So that's a one-off. So let's talk about that. Like those are the companies that we work with that will make sure that that's included on a personal side.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so it's really important to know. Don't just assume you have it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You heard that. No assumptions here, which,
yes.
You know me, I'm a big fan of the 4 agreements, and that's one of the agreements is don't make assumptions. If you've never heard of that book, ask me about it, because I think it's a fabulous read. Now it's my pleasure to bring up our third speaker, Nicole Scott, an attorney with NMS Family Law.
Hello, Nate. Hello, everybody. Julie and Jackie, thank you so much. I took enough notes, things that I didn't even think about. Now I'm going to implement. So I'll be contacting both of you. My name is Nicole Scott. I am the owner and founder of NMS Family Law Firm. We are a family law firm. We do divorce, custody, visitation, orders of protection, and we included estate planning in our around house last year. So the reason why I included estate planning was because doing my own estate planning, I realized that this is kind of a segue to what I was doing anyway. I realized that there were a lot of things that my clients probably needed through an estate plan that they weren't getting. And after I started surveying my clients and asking them after their divorce was over, whether they had an estate plan, all of them were telling me no. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna help you do that. And so I want to talk to you all today about just thinking about, what the estate plan looks like. Kind of what Julie mentioned a few times is a lot of people believe that they are too young to do any of these things, which is false. Or they also believe that they don't have enough assets in order to make an estate plan. Oh, it doesn't make sense for me to do that. I don't have anything anyway to give anybody when I die. So why should I do that? But that's also false. So the first bullet point is talking about an estate plan after the divorce. So in the event that you have to go through the untimely or unpredicted event of the divorce, you always want to make sure that your affairs are in order and that you review your documents once you're divorced. So typically in a divorce, we'll put in the divorce decree or the divorce order, if there's a will or a trust that the person that you are married to is no longer entitled to their bequest or their claim for that will or that trust. But you still have to make sure that your will and your trust documents are updated, because the court is going to look at those will and trust documents or the will documents if it has to go to probate and follow what that says in the will documents. What's also important is the insurance document. So if you have a life insurance policy, even though you get divorced and your divorce decree may say, oh, my ex-spouse is no longer entitled to be a beneficiary on my life insurance policy, when it's time to pay out the life insurance policy, the life insurance company is going to look at what your policy actually says. So you have to make sure that those documents are updated. In regards to the difference between a will and a trust, both will and trust do the same thing, right? They make sure that you make sure that your estate or that your belongings are, given to someone after you die. A trust, the difference between a will and a trust is that a trust, one, avoids probate, and two, a trust can start as soon as you draft the trust, right? So will is usually in effect once you die, but a trust can start as soon as the ink dries. You can transfer interest in a property to someone after you're done writing or drafting the trust. The reason why a trust is important is because, again, it avoids probate. So what does that mean? When you do a will, what happens is it has to go to probate court, because creditors will come and say, hey, even though they, said in their will that they want all of their assets to go to their mother, they still owe us $100,000. And so we want to make sure that we get our money before any additional funds or any additional property goes to, the mother. Trust will cover that. The trust will protect from creditors. And so it's important to do a trust. And again, just because you may feel like you don't have enough assets, which is what I felt when I first did a trust. I'm like, I don't have anything to leave to anybody. But once you start going through the trust process, you'll understand why it's very important. In regards to how to sign an estate plan. So I'm going to leave a document in the chat so you all can have access to it. What we give our clients, and what I did when I first did my trust was, my estate plan was, there's like a questionnaire that it asks you about all of your assets. It asks you about what's in your current bank accounts, how many bank accounts do you have any pets, do you have any cars, do you have any life insurance policies. It kind of goes through everything, certain things that you probably wouldn't even think of to give somebody if you died. And when you look at that document, I tell everybody to do it, even if you're not ready to formally do an estate plan, which I think that you should no matter what. But if you're not ready to, you can still go through this document, and it can help you kind of understand what you have and what you would need to divide once you pass away. In regards to a estate plan, there are many things that go into a estate plan, but the five main things are a will, or the four main things are a will, a trust, a power of attorney, and then you have your medical designation. So who will make your medical decisions on your behalf? And so it's just not where are my things going when I die, but it's if I'm sickly, who do I want to make those decisions on my behalf? Who do I want to have help me with my finances if I'm not medically, competent? You want to make those decisions while you're well and while you're able to make those decisions, because you don't want other people making those decisions for you. And so kind of going into the last bullet point, knowing your goals. You want to know how you want to plan out your life before death, even after death, right? And you don't want the state making those decisions for you, because if you die and you don't have a will, the state law will dictate where your assets go. And you want to make sure that everything that you have in your possession is protected. So that is kind of what we do when we think about conducting and creating an estate plan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. There's a couple of things that came to mind while you were speaking. The first question I have is for the person who hasn't ever created an estate plan, what would you say is the most common question you get and the most common reason why somebody says, you know what, I'm not ready to do this?
The most common thing that comes up is, again, people, just like kind of with the prenuptial agreement, people don't like to think about death. So they don't want to talk about it. It's kind of a taboo conversation to have. And so, I tell people all the time is, again, you want to prepare for that, right? You want to have the conversation now so that you don't necessarily have to have the conversation later. And so that's kind of the big conversation that I have with my clients when they come to me, talking about, or when I ask them, usually when I'm asking them about whether they have an estate plan or not, they will say, no, I don't want to talk about death. And it's just kind of not a conversation that they want to think about. Or again, they'll tell me that they don't have enough assets. They don't have anything to leave anybody. And so they don't care where their assets go because they don't have anything anyway, which is never a good case.
Well, and the last thing I wanted to just ask you, kind of get your clarification around, I oftentimes will have people say, I don't want to spend the money because I'm going to have to update this again in the future. And I just want to wait. When you have people who come back to you who've already had estate plans and you're making updates to them, what would you say is usually a good pace or amount of time to be thinking about making updates? Or are there really more event-driven reasons to be making updates?
I would say it's both. For example, if you do an estate plan and at the time you don't have any children, right? But 5 years later, you may have children, then, you should think about updating your estate plan. Or if you don't ever intend to have children and, your career kind of goes along and you start acquiring more assets and things like that, then, that's a time where you should think about reviewing your estate plan. Or if, you have a trust and the trustee passes away before you want to make sure that you update your trust to designate a new trustee. So.
Sure. Well, thank you, Nicole. This has all been super helpful. Hopefully anyone who has questions will follow up with you and ask some more and learn how you can help them make sure that they're protected.
Thank you.
This brings us to our last speaker for today. And I'm grateful to have the pleasure to speak with you all. Thank you for everyone who's still here and everyone who's shown up so far. When I think about why I asked these other three speakers to join me, the biggest thing is that it takes a team to effectively do financial planning, and it takes a team to effectively serve clients. When I'm thinking about the idea of how do I run my family like a business, one of the things businesses do is they surround themselves with centers of influence or network partners. And they think, who's tangential to my business and who's going to help me reach my goals? Who do I want along the path with me? And these three women are in industries that are very helpful. There's a little bit of crossover between what Julie and I do. But at the end of the day, we were on a call yesterday talking about how we could send each other clients from cases that maybe one of us isn't quite as equipped for and the other might be more equipped for. When I think about for myself, however, what were the things that I do with my clients that are really helpful for them? The first thing is to think about trust as the foundation for any successful financial plan. When I think about trust, first, in a relationship, a family needs to be able to trust each other. If it's just an individual, they need to trust their intuition and their gut and know that they're able and capable of making sound decisions. And then when it comes to working with an advisor, you have to trust that person and trust the team that's put around you. Because if they're giving you great suggestions and you don't really trust what they're saying is going to serve you very well, you're probably not going to take action. And then in that case, what's the point of having the advisor? If you don't feel like the advisor has your best interest at heart, go find somebody else. Because quite honestly, there's thousands of people who do this work, but if you don't feel that level of commitment and connection, it's going to be a problem. I'm oftentimes taking down very sensitive information for my clients, and regularly they tell me their social security number. Recently, I had a couple of clients give me a little pushback, and they said, can you send me some kind of electronic link where you don't see this? And I just was honest with them. I said, if I'm servicing your account, I'm going to be able to see this information, but let me break down this barrier for you, and here's mine. And I just told them my social security number. And then all of a sudden, I could just see the look on their face change. Now, I didn't legally have to do that. I'm a fiduciary. I'm state and federally obligated to act in their best interest. But I wanted them to know that I would trust them with the same thing they're looking to trust me with. And to me, I find that creates a really strong foundation. The second thing for families to do is to discuss your goals and discuss them with each other. So oftentimes when I'm sitting down with clients, the beginning of a conversation is to learn, what do your goals look like? What matters to you personally, professionally, and financially? And what are you looking to accomplish over the next 3 to 5 years? And then we'll look at 5 to 10 years. And then we'll look at 20 years out. And the idea is I want my clients to start thinking about different stages in their life so they can identify with what that future version of themselves is going to care about and make decisions that maybe they don't feel the benefit of it today, but they realize there's a future version of them waiting to receive that benefit. A lot of times when I'm working with couples, I find that they've never even discussed these goals collectively, nor have they written them down or thought about how are they going to grow and evolve. My wife and I were watching Medea's Homecoming movie this weekend, and there was a line that stood out to me that I thought was really important. And of course, I'm not going to deliver it properly, but Medea was basically talking about when you get married, you don't just say I do to that one person. You're actually saying I do to every version of that person they're going to become. And what's important is when I meet with my clients, I'm mapping out goals that matter for them at that moment. But if the relation in the couple, if they're not working together and having a strong line of communication long term, they may be out of sync with what the other person wants and cares about. And that's going to be reflected in their financial plan. Because when it comes time to take the next step and the next step, they're going to be at odds. And hopefully before they go over to Nicole and say, we're ready to blow this thing up, they think about where are we missing the boat on communication. I actually worked with a couple yesterday who was talking, they're an LGBTQ couple. And so they were talking about, they just had a conversation around kids and they just decided to rule out pregnancy as an option. They're either going to adopt kids or they're going to foster kids and maybe eventually adopt kids. Well, that was really important for them to get on the same page because now when we're developing their financial plan, there are certain things that we don't need to think about and there's certain things we do. Which is great transition to the third point about having difficult conversations. To me, I have very clear ideals about what matters. My wife has very different ideals. And collectively, there's a lot of things that are very similar, but sometimes there's things where we're, I'm north, she's south, she's east, I'm west. And we need to learn how do we talk about that. Kids is another great example. When we got together, I wanted 6, she wanted 0. And it wasn't just a simple yes or no black and white concept, but it was, she has younger nieces and nephews, she has godchildren, she knows what it takes to raise kids, and she's kind of been there, done that, helping others. And I just was thinking about the fun of having 6 kids run around the house and playing basketball and playing football, and I wasn't thinking about diapers. And so once we started that conversation, we said, hey, let's have one and let's see where that goes. So being able to talk about that. Another concept is figuring out, what does money mean to you? I tell my clients financial planning is about everything else but money. It's really about what are you trying to create in life and how is money going to serve you as a vehicle to achieve those goals. So one way I think about money is energy. And it's a tangible way of showing what do I value and where am I giving my energy? What's the result of the resources? And the last kind of difficult conversation I have is how are we going to handle a crisis? So Nicole mentioned this, Julie mentioned this, Jackie didn't mention it, but I'm sure she would have if she had more time. A lot of people are afraid to talk about death. They just don't want to acknowledge it. One of the spiritual teachings that I've picked up over the years is a life well lived is actually a practice for death. because when that moment comes, we're not going to be afraid of it. In the same way, running your life effectively, planning for risk, what can go wrong, allows me to be a lot more present in life, because I know, God forbid, something happens. All I have to do now is show up and handle that responsibility, and I don't have to worry about money because there's been a plan put together. The last thing is really to hold each other accountable. If you have a personal vision, share it with your partner, and maybe even sit down and create a family vision. And then discuss what's the impact of us failing to reach this vision. What's going to happen if we don't succeed? Now, it doesn't mean you wallow in self-pity and despair. We just keep working at it until we get there. But the idea is, how can you and your partner really effectively get to where you're going if you don't know how to hold each other accountable? I had a couple I was working with who the husband didn't really want to get life insurance because he just saw it as a fixed cost. He was like, I want my wife to live a nice long life, and I hope she never dies. But the wife was in a spot where she said, I love my kids and my husband so much that if I wasn't here, I would feel really awful if they had to struggle. And when I watched them go through that conversation with each other, and the husband agree, yes, let's put this life insurance in place, the smile on the wife's face was just off the screen. And it made my day and probably my week, because I saw a really tangible benefit of what working with my clients created for them in their life. So really my challenge for anybody who's thinking about, what should I be doing as a family to reach my goals? Remember why you got together in the first place. Marriage, to some extent, is also an economic partnership and a commitment. And if you're going to go on this partnership together, remember why you trust each other, discuss your goals, have these difficult conversations, and find a third party who can help hold you accountable. That's really what I do. I think in a lot of ways, I'm a therapist who talks to people about how they're handling their money and coming up with a plan for what to do with it moving forward. So hopefully this has been helpful. The goal really with the rest of our time today is to answer any questions, whether they're questions you have for a specific individual or questions you want to throw out to the panel. I'm just going to kind of open some space for that. Feel free to either put it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Sure can, Tiara.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got lots of children in the background, but this was an amazing panel, you guys. I definitely appreciate all the information learned. I just would like to know if you guys have any suggestions on I'm just going to be quite frank. I'm trying to get my Nana, and she's upwards in her 60s, so I'm trying to get her to see the importance for planning of her afterlife, but it's not nudging. Are there any comfortable or smooth transitional ways that I can get to have these type of conversation with her as far as setting up a will and, getting some stuff in play for, the inevitable?
That's a great question. Nicole?
Yeah, so Tiara, I would try to, really tug at her heartstrings, right? Like when I was having the conversation with my grandmother and my grandfather was adamant that he wasn't leaving anybody anything. He was just over his kids, and he felt like they just didn't deserve any of his assets. So I told him, well, what about your grandchildren? Don't you work this hard during your life? Don't you want to see, well, you won't see it, but don't you want your children to, or your grandchildren to continue your legacy and things like that? So, your Nana, right? Like, what's going to make her heart jump, and I know my grandmother was very hardcore, but I knew what would get her heart. So I would just say really try to tug at her heartstrings and, tell her, it's really not about you, but you've birthed these children that birth grandchildren, you've created this legacy. Don't you want to continue that legacy in the positive light that you already have, and see if that works. But it is hard. It is hard for the older people to budge, but just try to tug at her heart.
Well, another, Jackie, actually looks like you have something.
I can add just one little piece of advice to that, is that it's not always about where your money is going afterwards, but it's also about your own decision making in healthcare. And what if something happens to her where she's not able to make her own decisions anymore? Doesn't she want to feel like she designated someone to do that for her, and she made those wishes heard so that she can stay in control to the very end, and people are going according to her wishes. I think that's another really good way of talking about it, and that will get the ball rolling at least.
Sure. And the last thing I'll say before jumping on this next question in the chat is really anytime you're trying to convince another person to have a hard conversation like that, just make it about you and not about them. I would say, you know, Nana, it's really important to me that I do everything in my power to make sure your wishes are carried out. And I would feel really comfortable if you would take the time to have a conversation with someone I trust, just to learn about what these things are, and then make the decision for yourself. But I wouldn't feel good. I'd feel like I failed you as a grandchild if I didn't expose you to this. And whenever it's not you need to do this, but I would feel better if, it comes across much different because now you're communicating need. Question I see here from Brandon: for not being a homeowner yet, what are the best short-term investment solutions for a young couple in 2022? I'd say that this is a pretty good question for me to field. First and foremost, legally, I got to tell everyone this is not financial advice, and I don't want you to take this as financial advice. However, when you're thinking about short-term investing, you have to consider a few factors. Time frame. What does short-term actually mean to you? If you're saying, I want a short-term investment, that's something I could put my money in and take out in a week. Does short-term mean I plan to pay a short-term gains tax where I'm liquidating the asset in under a year? Does short-term mean this just isn't retirement, but maybe this is 3 or 5 years? So figuring out what short-term actually means for you is going to be really important. The next thing is figuring out things like tax implications. Is this designed to be a place for me to park money that I'm hoping to time the market and then get out of the investment so that way I can make a profit? And if so, what are the tax ramifications of that profit? If you have, let's say you wanted to buy a stock that you thought was going to have a really great year because of a certain sector is poised for that, and it does great and it grows by 20%, and then you sell it within that year. Well, you're actually going to have to pay taxes on that based on your current income bracket. So it might even end up pushing you into a new income bracket, something we should be thinking about. You might say, another thing you should be considering is risk. How willing are you to watch this amount of money or the principal you've put in go down? So if you said, my goal for this short-term investment is a 3 to 5 year time horizon, and I don't want to lose a lot of money because I'm trying to turn this into money for a down payment on a house, then I would walk my clients through an investor profile, come up with their risk level, and put it in something safe enough to where the likelihood of it going down isn't very high, but risky enough where there's going to be additional growth opportunity. And hopefully we're not trading at a frequency that's going to affect us from a tax level. So I know I didn't give you an exact answer, because there's probably some more questions we should ask before I say this is what you should do. But one thing I can be very clear on what not to do is to just go out and start investing without having a game plan. Especially if your goal is to time the market, but it's money you really need, that's something that could have a lot of negative ramifications. And Brandon, I think you and I will chat on this a little bit more one-on-one after this presentation. What other questions do we have? If there are no other questions, I'm more than happy to give everyone back some time in their afternoon. If you found any value in this presentation, please feel free to reach out to any of the presenters and let them know what you found useful. I'd also love the feedback just to know how we could throw another event to make it more impactful. I've had a few people ask, will there be a replay of this available? Yes, there will be a replay. I need to do a little bit of editing on it, and I will get it out, and I'll email everybody who had RSVP'd for the event, and feel free to share it with others. While we've actually got probably 5 more minutes, I want to ask each of the speakers to talk a little bit about the best way to engage with them, to have an exploratory conversation. Julie, you're unmuted. Why don't you start first?
So the best thing to do is if you can contact me, the information is there on this first page that you're looking at. My email address is jsilverman@associated.cc. If you haven't jotted it down, just please give me a call. That's the best way. I'm really easy to find if anybody who knows me here. And I'm happy just to start a conversation. We could do it over Zoom. We could do it over a cup of coffee. I just want to know more about you and see if there's areas that I can assist you with.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time. Yes, there you go.
Jackie, what about yourself? How's
Thank
a
you.
good way for someone to interact with you to start a conversation?
Sure. So my phone number is on the screen. That's my direct line. You can always call. And you can also go on my website, and we have a contact us on the website. That'll make it real easy. And it sends us an email, and then we will email you back to schedule a call or a Zoom or an in-person meeting. The first time we meet with you, we do a 1-hour consultation, and there's no obligation and no charge for that. We just want to learn all about what you need and how we can help you and answer all of your questions. So we're here to help. And if you have any, even just some questions about what I talked about today, feel free to contact me. And Lisa Lipton is on the screen too with her camera on. She works with me also, so you may also hear from her if you email us.
All right, thanks, Jackie. And Nicole?
Yes, the best way to contact me is through calling our firm. Our phone number is on the screen. Either I will answer or my assistant will answer, and we will schedule a consultation with you. If you mention that you saw us on this platform, then we will make sure that we give you a free consultation. So
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. And I'd say really the best way for me is to call or text. My number there is my personal cell. What the process looks like is we just either get on Zoom or we get together for coffee and we talk. I don't charge for any of my time. I don't do fee-based planning. So a lot of what my model looks like is really spending the right amount of time to get to know you and then work with you collaboratively to create a plan. Sometimes that takes 2 or 3 meetings before we really get started. So if you found any of this interesting, feel free to reach out to any of us and we'd be happy to make some time.
I just want to throw in also, because I neglected to say also, we do not charge any fees for any of our services. So I know there's other companies out there that may, but I just wanted to let you know up front for anything we do, whether it's analysis or any continuing relationship, no fees also. So
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody has a
Thank
wonderful
you.
rest of their Thursday afternoon. Thank you for taking an hour of your time to share it with us. Anything we could do to be of service and be more valuable, please let us know. And we're happy to help.